Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's session on how to jumpstart monthly donor growth in 2026. My name is Milica Zajkovic, and I'm the head of product marketing and partnerships here at CharityEngine. If you're not familiar with CharityEngine, and if you haven't met us before, we are a unified fundraising platform and CRM that puts all your fundraising tools and your donor data in one place. And one area where we really excel in is around monthly giving and monthly giving management. Our platform is designed to help you grow your sustainer program and not only grow, but also help you keep those monthly donors. We're also very proud to be the first platform to earn sustainable giving certification. This is a third-party recognition that highlights our strong recurring giving infrastructure and some of the highest collection rates on monthly gifts in the industry. So long story short, monthly giving is something we're very passionate about. We love talking about it, which is why I'm excited to introduce today's speaker, Chris Barlow. Chris is the founder of Beeline Marketing. Beeline Marketing is a consultancy dedicated to helping nonprofits grow their donor base. And so today he's going to be sharing very practical, actionable strategies and tips on how you can expand your monthly donor community. And this is very timely because as a lot of you are getting those first-time donors throughout the end-of-year giving season, it's very important to think about how do we keep those donors around into 2026. So very happy to have Chris here today. And one quick note before I pass it over to Chris, we do have a little surprise bonus just for today's attendees. If you're feeling like your current platform, whatever that may be, even if you don't have one, isn't giving you what you need to truly manage and grow your monthly donor program, we'd love to talk to you. We'll drop a link in the chat for anybody who's interested in scheduling just the quick exploratory call with CharityEngine. And the surprise is that as a thank you, anybody who schedules that call today will receive a free copy of The Rise of Sustainable Giving. This is a great resource book written by Dave Raley for anybody who is really looking to sink their teeth into monthly giving programs and growing their monthly donor base. All right, that was a shameless plug for CharityEngine. But without further ado, Chris, welcome. The floor is yours.
Awesome. Thank you, Maliha. And it's cool that you mentioned Dave Raley because I'm going to be sharing a little bit about him today, just some data that he has on sustainable recurring giving, which is maybe no surprise because he's such a great expert. Thank you for being here today. I'm going to do my best to make the most of our time to be really helpful to you as much as I can, and we'll have time for Q&A at the end. And I believe, tell me if I'm wrong, Maliha, but I believe there will be a recording that's sent out to you because that's usually one of the number one questions that we get asked. So I'm excited to help you find out how we can be more effective in getting monthly donors here at year end and going into 2026. I want to start by telling a story. When I was in college, I was dating my now wife, Lydia, and we were pretty serious and thinking about getting engaged. And it came to the time where I needed to call her dad and talk to him and just kind of get his blessing on that before moving forward. And she was visiting her family in Germany at the time, and I was studying abroad in Hong Kong at the time. So I was going to have to make an international phone call. And it's nerve-wracking enough to like talk to a dad and about his daughter and ask that question. But I'd only met him once, very briefly, and like his feedback to her about me was that I was too young. And I think looking back now, almost 20 years later, like I have to agree with him. But anyway, so I was really, really nervous to make this call. And I got his office phone number from Lydia. And I ended up not really thinking about it. I was like, I'm just so nervous. I'm just going to call. And I'm not going to think about anything I want to say. I'll freak myself out. So I called him and I kind of just spilled it all out in the very first sentence after, making sure it was him. I introduced myself, said, "Hey, this is Chris," and I said it all. And I think I tell the story because I think if I had stopped to think about my why did I want to marry Lydia? And why did I want his blessing and his thoughts on the matter? And why was that important to me? I think I would have felt a lot less anxiety. I mean, I don't think there would have been any way to avoid any anxiety in the story or the situation, but I would have felt a lot more confident about having that conversation, about asking that question, and getting his approval. And so I'm going to come back to this, knowing our why and how it can help us significantly in being bold in what we're asking for, and being confident and knowing that we're asking something in a way that's also in the donor's interests. So today we're going to talk about, here's our agenda, the top barrier that's blocking monthly donor growth and how to overcome it. We're going to look at how to write really effective appeals that resonate with your donors, how your donors can help you make that most effective. And then we're going to look at 4 strategies to get new monthly donors here at year end and at the start of 2026. And then we'll have some time for Q&A. So with federal funding disappearing over this last year, nonprofits are turning to individual donors to pick up the slack. But one-time donations don't fix a funding and sustainability problem. So before we talk about the barrier to getting monthly donors, let's talk about why they are important in the first place. Now, it may seem obvious, but here's some data. The average one-time donor retention rate is 45%, meaning you're keeping less than half the donors you bring in. And we know how much work it is and how expensive it is to bring in a new donor, and we're losing half the people we're bringing in. So again, one-time donors can't fix that, our sustainability problem, but the average monthly donor retention rate is over 80%, sometimes nearing 90%. That's basically 2 times better. We're keeping most of our monthly donors. And here's one more stat, as you can see, to support the value and importance of monthly donors. Monthly donors give on average 42% more than one time. Now, it's hard for us to attract one-time donors. So how much more is it harder to attract monthly donors? Well, maybe it's not any harder. Maybe it could actually be just as difficult. Maybe it could be just as effective. And so if we're going to put in the effort to get new people to become donors, why not go for monthly? So I have a question. What makes it, how do we get people to decide to give? What helps people decide to give? I'd love to see your answer in the chat. What do you think helps people decide to make this final decision to give to you? Feel free to drop what you think in the chat, how you feel about it. We're not going to look at the science of this question, the psychology of giving today, but this question is relevant to how we address what the top barrier is to getting monthly donors. So yeah, put your, what do you think in the chat? Share. What do you think helps people decide to give to you? Connecting to your organization's mission. Trust. I like that. Worthy cause, what the donor feels is a worthy cause. Alignment with your values. The impact of their gift. Yep, that they're making a tangible difference. Anything else? Passion and values. Yeah, these are all correct answers. There's no one personal story, personal tie to the story. Yeah, so there's no one right answer to this question. Something that motivates them in the moment. Here's my 2 answers that I'm going to add to yours. The first one is your value proposition, which we're kind of talking about. Ease of giving, that's good too. So your value proposition, and I'm going to define what that is. And then the second answer I have to this is your donors are the experts on why they chose to give. We aren't. And so knowing that they're the experts should hopefully make us want to ask them why they gave. And I want to back up my own answers to this question, particularly that your value proposition, with some data. So the company Next After, they did an experiment where on a donation page, they tested a regular form against a donation form with a 1-sentence value proposition that explained why the donor should give monthly instead of once. Everything else was identical. With the 1-sentence value proposition for why the donor should give monthly, they saw a 456% increase in monthly donations. That's simple, just telling the donor why they should give monthly. Again, this experiment is not a guarantee of results for you, but it's really interesting. And then, so in another experiment, another organization tested their donation form with a value proposition against one where they removed the value proposition for monthly donations to see what happens if we remove that value proposition. Well, when they remove that single little sentence at the bottom of the gift array, it dropped donor conversions by 40%. Now, these are just 2 pieces of data, right? But there's a lot more out there that supports the power of your value proposition to attract donors. So common sense and data tell us that it's vital. And it also explains why it's a common struggle to, when we want to attract new monthly donors, to feel anxious about asking people, because a lot of us have not taken the time to understand our why. Why are we asking people to give monthly? Why are we or recurring? Why is it in our donors' best interests to give? Why is this common? Well, the data shows 58% of nonprofits have no unique reason why someone should give monthly instead of once. So most organizations haven't actually defined that for themselves, haven't thought through it, haven't made that really clear. And so they can't confidently tell people why they should give monthly. They just say, well, you should give monthly. So now I'm going to take a step back. What is a value proposition? Let's define that so we can understand what we're asking people to do. And we'll look at what is a monthly donor value proposition. Before we do that, really briefly, if you have to leave early at any point, I'd love to stay connected with you. So you can email me at my email address right there, or you can go to this QR code or the URL and download our ebook on how to attract new donors, how to use digital marketing to find new donors. It's all about filling in the top of your funnel so you can begin to nurture people into first-time donors, one-time donors, monthly donors. It's a really great resource to begin reaching and connecting with new people. So really briefly, just wanted to give you the opportunity to connect with me if you have to leave. And again, I believe there'll be a recording and we're going to have some more time for Q&A at the end. So let's look at what is a value proposition. A value proposition answers this question: why should I give to you rather than to any other cause or not at all and buy something for myself? Most organizations are answering this question in some way on their donation page, in their emails. They understand we have some form of value proposition. But for monthly donors, it's this: why should I give a recurring gift to you instead of one time, and rather than to some other organization or not at all? The more clear and compelling you answer this question for monthly donors, the more likely you're going to get that person to become a recurring donor. And something that's really interesting and doesn't get talked a lot about in our sector is that we as nonprofits, and it explains why value propositions is so important. We're as nonprofits, we're competing with for-profits for people's disposable income, the money that people have beyond their basic needs. So as a consumer, if I'm thinking about buying some chocolate, I don't really need the chocolate company to tell me why I would want to do that. It's obvious. Like, even if you don't like chocolate, you can understand why someone would want to buy it and have it. Of course, each individual company, chocolate maker has to differentiate their product. So they do need some form of value proposition to explain why theirs stands out. But again, for consumers, we kind of get what's in it for us when we're buying something for ourselves. But as nonprofits, we don't usually offer an obvious, immediate, surface level desire fulfillment. There's not something that our donors are getting right away. There's some exceptions to this. If you're a museum, people will buy a museum pass and they're getting to go to the museum. But of course, if they're donating, it's not as direct. Yeah, good question, Lisa. Who doesn't like chocolate? That's why I give it as an example. What we offer as nonprofits is far less tangible. It's built on trust. And so our donors usually aren't our recipients. They don't get what they're paying for. So we're offering something that they have to rely on our storytelling and our reports to see the fulfillment of their trust and desire come to pass. And so we have to really tell them, well, this is why you would want to give, and this is why you'd want to give monthly. It's the reason why people are choosing to give to us. I mean, it's one of many reasons, right? You guys gave a lot of good answers there. And as I said before, 58% of us are not writing something specific for monthly donors. So here are a few examples of how we can make it unique for monthly donors. You can make an impact 365 days a year. You can ensure that we have resources in place to respond to urgent needs. Instead of an urgent need comes up and then we've got to do some fundraising real quick, it's like we've already got the funds in place. We've got these monthly donors who are making sure that happens. A big one that's really, really in the donor's interest, is more of your donation is going to go toward impact instead of fundraising, because you're a committed donor and that those funds are coming in, and we can plan and budget way differently. And we can put a lot more of those funds toward the program, toward the mission. Another one, recurring gift makes donating easier when it's set up as an automatic gift. You don't have to keep thinking about whether you want to give or not, or remembering to do so. And then finally, with identity, maybe the most important thing is you can live out your values and express who you are all year long. It's not just something you did once, it's something who you are. Here are a few specific examples of real world nonprofits that we're working with that have very simple monthly donor value propositions. And these are just one sentence ones. Like, you can have a value proposition that takes 2 paragraphs, but just to look at some quick ones. Connected families, change the trajectory of a family every month. Straightforward. Roots Ethiopia, I really like this one. A global community of monthly donors who want to create lasting change in Ethiopia, one student and one mother at a time. So it talks about identity. We're a global community. We are a community. We're in this together. We want to have long-term change in Ethiopia. And we're not going to do this big capital campaign and raise millions of dollars. We're doing this one person at a time. And then finally, Northshore Animal League, the best way to save animals year round. Well, if you care about saving animals, you might as well do it all the time, not just once. So if the value proposition is so important, how do we create one that's we know is going to work, that our donors respond to? Well, let me ask this question. Let me answer this question by asking another one. Who is the expert on why your donors give? We might come up with a value proposition for monthly donors that we think is compelling, but do they give when they read it? So we need a way to step into our donors' shoes, and we want to learn, like, what are they thinking? How do they feel about what I'm communicating right now? What's motivating them? What concerns do they have about us? Why did they give? So you may remember my 2 answers on the question, what makes people decide to give, is value proposition, and your donors are the experts on why they give. So if our donors are the experts on why they give, the key to having an effective, powerful value proposition that people respond to is listening. We want to listen to our donors. We want to figure out how can we understand what they're thinking and feeling, so that we can then use the words, the emotions, the motivations that they're telling us in how we formulate the reasons why they should give. So we can, if we are actively listening to our donors, then we can use that to help us improve and write a good value proposition, have better donation pages, more engaging emails, effective ad copy, and just be responsive to the people in our audience by listening to them. So how do we do this in our marketing? How do we do this in our marketing communications in a simple and repeatable way? Well, there's a lot of strategies that you could follow to do this, but I'm going to just share one, maybe the one thing that you could go and do here at year end that will really help you a lot for the next year. And that's to do a post donation survey. So on that thank you page, after someone completes that donation, have a survey that comes up right away on that page. It says, thank you for donating. We would love to get to know you and hear from you more. What method of communication do you prefer? Like, give them a few options: email, text, phone, snail mail, whatever it might be. And then, why did you choose to give today? Leave that as an open-ended question. And this is the golden time to ask them this question, because they just finished giving. They know what they're feeling. They know why. They know the motivation they had that made them decide to give. The way that your donors answer this question is gold, because you can, 1, understand people and see what they care about. And 2, you can put all the answers and responses you get together and say, what are the common things? What are the common threads, the feelings, the words that our donors are using? And these last 2 questions are optional. I highly recommend asking them, because anyone who answers these 2 questions, or one of these 2 questions, is someone on your fundraising team, someone that your fundraising team should reach out to. If someone who just donated has a vision for your mission, or would like to share their story, or has thoughts about how you could improve, that is a potential mid-level major donor. Maybe not every time, but they are definitely someone who is thinking beyond the donation. They are thinking beyond the moment. They are thinking of the big picture, and they do care about your organization. So You implement a simple post-donation survey, and you will begin to be able to listen and understand what your donors are thinking, and they will help you write a more effective value proposition, appeal, etc. So we've explored the top barrier to monthly donor growth, how to overcome it. So let's dive into some specifics now of what you can do during year end and at the start of 2026 to get more monthly donors. So here are the 4 strategies that we're going to look at. The questions are, should you start, or the topics are, should you start by trying to get monthly donors first, or try to get one-time donors and then upgrade? Second, when should you try to upgrade your current monthly donors or new monthly donors into monthly ones? Third, we're going to look at some strategies to optimize the donation experience to get monthly donations. And then fourth, I'm going to teach you a simple email campaign you can launch in January to get a bunch of new monthly donors in 2026. So let's look at this first. Should you try to get people as one-time donors or recurring donors first? Well, there is the Recurring Giving Benchmark report by Next After, and they have this really helpful chart in there. And it shows the lifetime value over the last 5 years of people who started as recurring donors in the left column versus people who upgraded to monthly donors after being a one-time donor. And you can see the average value at the very bottom row, the average lifetime value of a recurring donor was 594, but people who upgraded, it was 810. So the lifetime value of people who upgrade from a one-time gift into monthly is 36% higher. But, so you might want to say, well, you want to get people to give once and then convert to monthly. But you can also see that the lifetime value on the right column has been going down every year. And there might be all kinds of reasons for this. It could be because people are more used to being asked to become monthly donors. There are more people who are used to managing the different organizations they give to on a recurring basis. Well, whatever the reason is, so it could change. So I would say the answer to this question is, should you start with one monthly or one time? I think kind of the answer is start with monthly, because we know the retention rate is high. And because the value of people who are upgrading is going down, it might be the same. This year, it might, it was the same in 2024, 2025, essentially, same lifetime value. So let's not worry about that too much. But it is important to make sure that you have a strategy to convert those one-time donors into monthly. So that leads us to the second question. When should we ask people to convert after they gave once? When's the best time to get them to start giving monthly? Well, the answer is as soon as possible. This is from the WAVE report, a weekly email that Dave Rayleigh sends out. It's really good thoughts on recurring giving, sustainable giving. And you can see in this chart, you have the rate at which new donors convert into sustainers, what he's referring to as recurring, and the amount of time that passes. You can see the more time that passes, the less likely people are to become recurring monthly donors. And Dave shared that his hypothesis is that when a donor is new, they haven't yet established a habit or expectation for how they're going to give to you. And it's much easier to start a habit when people are new and not yet set in their ways. And I agree with his assessment. And so really what we want to do is to convert one-time donors into monthly as soon as possible. So that leads us into how do we do that? How do we optimize the donation experience? So let's look at a few different ways that you can do this. I'm going to share a bunch of different ideas here, but we really only need to implement, I recommend only trying to implement at least one of these in your software and in your flow and your donation experience for year end. So one thing I really like about this example from Wounded Warrior Project, and this is a CharityEngine form, is they have a choice. They give the donor a choice, but they highlight monthly. So I put that green box in there to show, hey, they have got their monthly donor value proposition right there. So they have a one-time gift highlighted as the default. I think that's respectful of the donor. It's saying, you might not ready to commit, but we want you to think about committing. That gives the person the power to choose. And so you encourage them to make that choice, but you're letting them start with making the choice to begin with. They get to click monthly gift. So that's one way you can start, is give them a choice, but highlight the option Another way you can do this is to have a pop-up prompt. So when someone hits donate, they fill in the form, they click give now. There's a pop-up that says, would you consider switching your gift from a one-time gift to a monthly gift? This particular experiment saw an increase and all that. That's not my point. My point is just to have an interrupter of in the middle of giving. It says, hey, would you consider doing a monthly gift instead, a $10 monthly gift instead of the one time? Similarly, again, this is another CharityEngine form. This is basically the same thing. Have an upgrade page at submission. So when someone clicks donate, it says, would you consider upgrading? They had selected a $25 one-time gift, and the software suggested, would you consider a $19 monthly gift instead? So here's some different ways that you can get people to begin thinking about giving a monthly gift, and an opportunity to present your monthly donor value proposition. Now, I recommend putting that also on the donation page itself. And then finally, third is you could consider putting a monthly ask in the donation receipt email. Would you consider giving monthly? Just a separate ask. So in that email, allow people to say, okay, I just gave a one-time gift. Maybe I should actually give a small gift monthly as well. So these are just different ideas on how you can optimize that experience to begin to get people to think about why they should give monthly and make it easy for them to do so. Someone said ease of use. Yeah, ease of making the gift is a reason why people choose to give. And this is one of that examples. Now, here's the last thing I would say about the donation experience. If you're going to ask for a monthly gift when they're going to make a one-time, you make sure that your ask for monthly is appealing and accessible. So I have seen forms that say, the default, have your default gift, you have your gift array, and you have a default amount like $50. And if you switch to monthly, it just becomes a $50 monthly gift. That is not respectful of a donor. What you're asking for is more money in that case. You're saying, would you give us 12 times more money? And that's not what we want to do. We want people to look at the monthly suggested amount and be like, wow, you actually are only wanting that much today, like monthly. You would rather just $10 a month than $50 now, or whatever the amount is. If you divide their one-time gift by 10, I think that's a really good ratio, because it feels a lot smaller than the one-time gift that they were going to make. And it gets them to ask the question, well, why would you want less money right now? And of course, donors are smart. They're not like thinking about just the one-time gift. They're able to calculate what that is over the course of the year, but it still creates that cognitive dissonance where they're saying, well, why would you want this? And that gives you the opportunity to tell them on that page right there, here's the reason, here's our monthly donor value proposition. So you can see again here with the Wounded Warrior form from CharityEngine, defaults at 50. If you switch to monthly, it switched to 19. I don't know the reasoning behind those numbers, but I do think that's respectful of the donor to say, we're asking for a smaller gift, and here's why. And they even have a little an offer. You get a fleece blanket. So that's sometimes another good thing you can do. It's offer something. So now we've looked at optimizing the donation experience. Let's look at first some bonus tips. And then we'll look at a strategy, a campaign for 2026 in January. These are more things for you to consider. Add a donate monthly button on the homepage. So a lot of organizations, a lot of us have donate as a button in the top menu. What if you had next to that donate monthly? In one experiment, 75% of organizations don't have this button, by the way. And in one experiment that saw an increase of 144% in donations, monthly or one time. And I think part of the reasoning behind that is you're giving people a choice. Instead of saying, do you want to donate or not? You're saying, do you want to donate or donate monthly? It's just a very subtle thing, but I highly recommend doing it. It's not a lot of work to add a single button. Create a dedicated recurring donation page. So you have your regular donation page, create one that's all about being a monthly donor and talking about why people are monthly donors and why you should. 68% of organizations don't have this kind of page. There's no harm in having two donation pages, and probably will help you actually. And then you can really go into the monthly donor value proposition and who your monthly donor community is. And then finally, make sure you include ACH as a payment method 29% of organizations don't offer this. Make it easy for people to put in their bank information, or if you want to start with credit card as the primary or similar credit card payment method, make sure in your receipt email or in a follow-up email very soon encourage people to switch. Go to their donor portal and switch to ACH, because bank information changes far less and does not expire, unlike credit cards. Anytime you have to update a credit card for a monthly donor, you risk losing them. Now, there are some features and platforms that can do some of this automated, but you're still risking losing people. So I highly recommend getting people switched to ACH and make it an option from the very beginning. Okay, so let's look at our campaign for January. How are we going to get more monthly donors in the new year? Well, I encourage you to try this 5 email series. Maybe send them over a course of a couple of weeks, so one every couple of days, starting in early January. And all you've got to do is set up these emails, put them in an automated sequence, and then you just need to create an audience of people that you want to send these to. And I'll explain who you want to send these to in just a moment. But the goal is you want to convert people who gave once at the end of this year into monthly. And the way you segment this is to take people who give under whatever amount it is that your fundraising team doesn't do any personal outreach to. So if that's 1,000 and under, then use that audience. It's 500 under, whatever the size of your organization is and is appropriate to you. Say, okay, these are the people we are most likely to lose, because they're not going to they're probably not going to hear from our fundraising team on a one-to-one basis. So we want to retain as many of these people as we can. And the amount they give is relevant. And I'll come to that in just a moment as we go through these emails. So let's talk about what emails should you send. What could they look like? Now, these are just guidelines of what you could send in these emails, but you can follow them exactly if you wish. So in the first email, and this is really maybe the most important one to follow, is you want to thank people. Thank them again for giving at the end of 2025. Talk about the impact. Tell a story that shows what their gift is helping to accomplish. And let them know what to expect in January over the next week or two. That you're going to tell them more about the community of donors who believe in your mission and who they are part of by having given. So start with thanking them. In email number 2, you can talk about a scenario where imagine you were going to receive a gift of $120,000 all at once, or you had the option to receive it as a $10,000 monthly gift. Which one would you choose? And then talk about how, if you were given that choice, why you would choose the monthly gift, and how, rather than the pressure of deciding what to do with a big gift all at once, not knowing whether that's going to repeat itself, not being able to invest in the same way, because that large gift, again, you don't know what you can do with that. If you can't create anything sustainable with that, you could do some big kind of one-time project with it, but you can't expand your capacity in the same way, because if next year that gift doesn't come, you might be overextended. And then you can say, look, you gave us a gift of $200 at the end of 2025. If you think you might give us $200 again at the end of 2026, we would like you to consider just giving us a $20 monthly gift starting now. And we're going to talk to you and tell you more about why that's really valuable, what kind of impact that could make by just giving us the same amount in 2026, but instead of waiting till December, just turning it into a monthly $20 gift. And then over the next couple of emails, we explain to them why they want to do that. So in email 3, we talk about an email with, or we share in the email, a difficulty of forming new habits. You say, look, it's January. Everyone's in the gym. Everyone wants to form new habits. And here's the data. 90% of people who have a new gym plan don't stick with it, because habits are very hard to form. And you believe in our mission, and it's something that you care about and you want to make a reality in the world. And so why not make it easy for yourself? Don't try to form a new habit. Just make an automated monthly gift. Do it. If this is something you believe in and you think you would want to continue to support, put that in there so that you can give them the self-determination to make that choice. If this is something you do want to believe in, you want to continue supporting, we'll make it easier on yourself. Maybe do an automated recurring gift, whether it's monthly or however often. And then by doing that, you're also allowing us to spend less time in fundraising and less guesswork in budgeting and more work on the impact that you want to see by just not trying to form a habit. In the fourth email, tell a story that shows who the community of your recurring donors or your sustainers or your monthly donors are. Have one of your monthly donors share a testimonial about why they're part of this and why it's so important. If you have a video, great. If not, written story is great too. But the point is, you want to take advantage of the fact that, or just tap into rather, the fact that people identify, like create a communities of identity. Seth Godin says, people like us do things like this. So you want to help that donor see, if I'm like this, then I want to do this too. I want to be part of doing this too, along with all your other monthly donors. So help them see who this community is through a story. And then in your fifth email, the final email is where you're going to do your biggest appeal. You can do little appeals. I would really mainly keep those appeals to email 2 and 5, or 2 where you're really tying the request and the gift to what they gave at the end of 2025. And then this one is saying that again, and it's giving them why and creating some urgency. And so what you're going to do is share 2 plans with your donor. Share, here's our short-term plan. Here's what we want to accomplish this year or in the next 6 months. And then we have this big goal. We have this big long-term plan, something we want to get done by the end of the year or the next 2 years, and say, which of these 2 plans would you prefer? If we had to pick one based on our budgeting, which should we put our efforts into? And then say, we would rather do both. We'd rather accomplish the short-term goal and this long-term goal. But if you choose to give us a monthly gift, we can accomplish both. And here's why. We'll get the initial support from enough monthly donors by the end of January that we can reach this short-term goal. But we'll also have the sustainability and the plan and the ability to plan and budget for the long-term goal. And you can create a deadline if you wish by saying, like, we want to get this many new sustainers or monthly donors by month end. And that is this number that we're trying to raise for this particular short-term goal and long-term goal. And so you can create real urgency because you're saying the more people we have join at the beginning of this year, the more likely we can achieve both plans. So as we wrap up, here's the key takeaways. Your value proposition is the key message to attract new and recurring donors. So make sure you create a recurring donor value proposition. Second, we want to understand our donors, why they give, by actively listening to them, asking questions, using a post-donation survey. And there's a lot of other things you could do, asking questions via email, encouraging people to reply to your emails, and then use what your donors are telling you to craft your messaging. Then finally, convert one-time donors and recurring donors as soon as possible through optimizing the donation experience, through email marketing, and then do a smaller one-time, or do this 5 email campaign targeting people who gave smaller one-time gifts to really grow those monthly donors in 2026. So here's your next step before we do Q&A. Go to this QR code or the URL and check out our custom Beeline GPT for nonprofits. And here's why. It's going to ask you for a website to get a little context and understand a little bit about your organization. It's going to ask you, what is your biggest marketing question or issue right now? And you can look, I would love to get the email templates for monthly donors for in January, the email campaign. It will send you a link directly to those templates. So you can get those templates. They'll already be ready for you to use. You can adapt them, customize them. And you can also ask the GPT to take those templates. You could and customize them for your organization. So you can whatever custom resource you need right now for monthly donors, this will help you. It can help you craft your value proposition. And then it can email it to you. There'll be a simple button where you just, after you've created the resource, you could just say, email it to me, and it'll send it to you. And once it emails it to you, you'll get a follow-up email from me where you can reply to and let me know whether the resource was helpful to you, whether you have additional questions. So anyway, I'd love to hear from you. Take a look at this resource. And yeah, I'd love to open it up to Q&A. And yeah, thank you again for your time and joining me. You're muted, Malia.
Oh, of course, rookie mistake. As we wait for questions to trickle in, I just want to say two things stood out to me in your presentation. Lots of good tips, but I love the point about adding a survey on the form, adding that one survey question, because that just one question, and I've seen our clients, our nonprofits who are using CharityEngine pose the question in kind of creative way that really inspired a genuine, heartfelt response, regardless of how short it was. And then I've seen the organization use that to inspire really thoughtful and heartfelt copy. So I love that it's just like a simple thing you can do. I also, and this is something that I don't think about often, but I think it's really helpful think about the way we can reframe the gift ask for the donor. Giving, like you said, giving $100 at the end of the year or $120 at the end of the year is same as giving $10, from now to then monthly. And putting it in those terms, I think a lot of times helps the donor say, yeah, that makes sense. I might as well do that. So I love that. Let's see if looks like, do we have any questions here from our audience? Quite a bunch today.
It is a busy time of year, so I appreciate you guys coming out to this webinar. Yeah, maybe it was just perfectly clear.
Perhaps. Well, all right. If we don't have any questions, I just wanted to thank everybody for joining us today. Chris, thank you so much. I thought this was such a great webinar and, a lot of practical tips. We will be sending out the recording to everybody who joined today, so look out for that right after the show. Again, thank you very much, and we hope to see you again.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.